sip of the juice from the fountain. Take a ride by my side for a swim. We can climb the highest mountain.
Okay, so on a scale of 100 miles by 100 miles, the Earth looks pretty flat. On a scale of 1,000 miles by 1,000 miles, it looks very flat.
pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly!
Ego down to nominal.
Flight outside SC off. Bring in SC off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see just how evil NASA is. First, we're going to look at Earth's orbital speed around the sun. How fast does Earth move around the sun? 66,600 miles per hour, speed of the globe's orbit. Next, curvature in 1 mile squared. According to Pythagorean theorem, 0.67 feet of drop. 8 inches converted to feet is 0.66667 feet. Curvature in 1 mile squared. Check. Earth's axial tilt, 23.4. But when you take 23.4 and subtract it from 90, a right angle, you get, believe it or not, 66.6. Again, axial tilt confirmed. Now let's take a look at the Antarctic and Arctic circles. Oh, would you look at that? 66.6 degrees north and 66.6 degrees south. Now let's go over the diameter of the moon. This is a new one, I actually didn't know. It's 2,160 miles, but you take 6 times 6 times 6, there you go, 2160. The surface temperature of Uranus, oh, there you go, negative 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6, 216. Oh, you thought we were done. Let's do Pluto's orbital velocity. Scroll down here. Oh, there we go. 666. The speed of sound in knots. Speed of sound. Oh, well, look at that. 666 knots. The Earth's circumference in nautical miles. Oh, 21,600. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Again, 600 times 6 times 6. Another coincidence. 21,600. How far is Mars from the sun? Oh, well, 1.666 astronomical units. Now let's look at Ceres' synodic period. And just as you expected, 666. Again, the devil's in the details, ladies and gentlemen. Saturn's orbital distance in kilometers. Let's take a look at the numbers. Oh, 1,426,666,000.
Can't put my feet up, can't hold my lunch down. Turning the sound up, I start to spin round. Can't stand on my own 2 feet, I just float away. Took a ride in a hot, hot seat, now I'm ready to play far away. Very nice.
Does it feel like you're back in space?
No.
Let's go for a little fly.
All right, leave the guitar hanging.
Yeah.
There it goes. It's weightless. Perfect. Beautiful. You guys are strong.
I worked all my life. I still owe on my grave. And here lately, I've been feeling like a slave. And I suppose that those Indians had it better than me. In the home of the brave, in the land of the free. And I like to let my light shine down at the marketplace. But it's kind of hard to do when people can't see your face. And I suppose those Indians must have had it better than me. In the home of the brave, in the land of the free. And I like to give them grandbabies a great big hug. Without obsessing over some mysterious bug. And I suppose those Indians had it better than me. In the home of the brave, in the land of the free. Yes, I suppose that those Indians had it better than me. In the home of the brave, in the land of the free.
Coriolis effect, an object in motion appears to be deflected from its course, as if a force is pulling it sideways. To demonstrate this point, let's imagine a game of catch being played by 2 people on a merry-go-round that spins like the earth but is flat. Without rotation, the ball appears to follow a straight path from thrower to catcher. Imagine the ball is tossed from the center to someone at the edge. With rotation, the ball still travels in a straight line in space, but because the catcher is moving, the ball misses. From the vantage point of the catcher, the ball appears to curve away. The direction of apparent motion is to the right, when following the path of the ball. Now the ball is thrown the other way. Because the thrower is moving, the ball has a velocity component to the right. The motion of the ball appears deflected to the right, and the ball misses the catcher again. Let's look at a throw across the merry-go-round. Both people move with the merry-go-round. The ball is thrown. Although it flies straight, it appears to be deflected from its original path. Apparent deflection increases as the ball travels farther. In the southern hemisphere, rotation is clockwise when viewed from over the pole. Again, the ball follows a straight course, but its apparent flight path is diverted. This time, the effect is to divert the motion to the left. On Earth, all free-moving objects, including masses of air, are subject to the Coriolis effect. In the northern hemisphere, objects are diverted to the right, as viewed from the direction of original movement. In the southern hemisphere, the deflection is to the left.
My society photographer got hit in the head by a polo ball. You're all I got. Big party for an American hero. My son, the astronaut. You're all I got. Big party for an American hero. My son, the astronaut.
With hundreds of millions of dollars a day coming and going through international shell companies. On their deathbed, the drifter will believe, oh, the tax code that applies to the Waffle House waitress equally to Warren Buffett is just something that Congress hasn't gotten around to fixing yet. Other drifters don't see any problem at all.
Trust
what's next? Flat Earth? Like, to try and lump that in. What was it like talking to a genuine guy? Or do you...
Very energetic, very enthusiastic, very convinced that we are on a flat Earth, despite, all the pictures from space and the aircraft flying around.
Tonight, we've got a really interesting program. We're going to be looking at the flat Earth. Now, well, actually, the flat Earth movement over the last number of years has been growing. And so Dr. Danny Faulkner has looked into this. In fact, he's even written a book on it called Flat, and all the other resources at the moment. So that's tonight's topic. We're going to be looking at the flat Earth. But let me start off, Danny, by asking you, why write a book on the flat Earth? Of all the subjects you could write on as an astronomer, why write about the flat Earth?
I first became aware of the flat Earth movement more than 4 years ago. It was rapidly growing. It seemed to be making inroads among the Christian community. About that time, major creation ministries, including Answers in Genesis, began getting getting questions. What about this flat Earth movement? We got people writing in and telling us we're not teaching true biblical cosmology. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. Take us off your mailing list, this sort of stuff. And people were just at their wits' end. I've heard about families divided by this: husband against wife, wife against husband, churches being split, parents and children. And I found people coming to us, as they so often do, looking for answers, have questions, and they need to go to somebody who can provide them some of the answers to those questions.
Afterwards, asking you about the flat Earth movement, or my husband believes in a flat Earth, or colleague does, or whatever it is. So it is a growing movement. But can you tell us about the origins of it? When did it begin? What prompted it? Who are the main organizers, I guess, behind it?
Yeah, one thing I need to clear up right away is the common misconception we have, or the actual faux history that we have. I'm sure in the UK it's the same as here in the United States. We grew up being told everybody thought the world was flat until about 5 centuries ago, when Christopher Columbus somehow proved otherwise. Now think about this for a minute. Christopher Columbus sails off from Spain to the Caribbean and back to Spain, and he does it 3 more times. He never realized that he had hit the New World. He thought he was actually in India. But how did that prove the Earth as a globe? It was not an issue, hadn't been an issue for 2 millennia in the West, at least. So that was kind of a lie made up in the 19th century. Then there was a man named Samuel Rowbottom, an Englishman who, 1840s, 1850s, began picking up on this thing. And he began arguing with people, telling them that the Earth was flat, and started giving some reasons. He did a famous experiment called the Bedford Level experiment. And he died, I think, by 1890. A little before that, but there were other people. William Carpenter's one, David Warlaw Scott, and Lady Blunt. The first two, they actually wrote books, and I've read both of their books, as well as both issues or both editions of Rowbottom's book. Lady Blunt, she was the head of this Zetetica Society, they called it, and she wrote a publication or a journal back in 1890s, early 1900s, up through the 1930s. Here in Illinois, in the United States, by a guy named Wilbur Glenn Voliva, who pushed flat Earth. But beyond that, in the 20th century, it waned considerably. So by the time you get to the middle part of the 20th century, it was quite a movement, though, in the 1890s. And then a guy named Samuel Shenton, there in the UK, started up a Flat Earth Society, I think in 1956 or 57, just before Sputnik. And so over the next dozen years or more, he was the go-to guy on it. He died in the early 70s. The torch passed to a guy named Charles Johnson here in California, in the United States. And he ran it for another 30 years until he died. More recently, Daniel Shenton in the Eastern United States, no relation to the first Shenton, Samuel Shenton, has resurrected the Flat Earth Society. Now it's high tech. It's got a website and everything. Website. I've read their stuff. The Flat Earth Societies, I'll say plural societies because there's been more than one. And what I found is they Earth societies have been for real. I think Johnson was. I think the first Shenton was, and so forth. When it exactly started, but people started putting some things up on the internet and YouTube and such. I know that I got a couple. Someone would send me a link to a YouTube video about 8 or 10 years ago, and I thought, well, that's interesting. It wasn't real overt what they were doing, I didn't think, but I thought it was interesting that they were arguing for the Earth being flat. Didn't give it much mind. And then about 4.5 years ago, in February of 2016, in a week's time, I had a conversation with 3 different adults concerned about 3 different young people who seemed to be buying into flat Earth. And I thought, 3 people 1 week, that's remarkable. So I said, I better look into this. And I started searching on the internet, and I was amazed. I mean, you could get millions of hits at that point. Disappoints me mightily. So people start talking about this astronaut being a Freemason, that astronaut being a Freemason, and everything else. And I kept thinking, well, what am I? Chopped liver? Am I a Freemason? What am I? People weren't asking that too much. So a couple of years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I forget when it was, I took a Masonic letter opener. It's a letter opener. I don't know how I got it. My grandmother may have given it to me. Both of my grandfathers were, I hate to admit this to people, but both of my grandfathers were Freemasons. And one of them died in 1932, a couple of decades before I was born. The other one died in the late 50s when I was about 4. I barely remember him. And this was the one who went to the celebration of the Grand Lodge of Kentucky 150th anniversary in 1950. That was 4 years before I was born. And that's what this little letter opener commemorates. So I have this thing. So what I did is at conventions, that people are doing this all the time. It means flat earth, you know. So I had this thing, had it sitting here on my desk with doing this, the mannequin. And next to it was a mason jar. You know what I mean? Do you have mason jars there in the UK? These are canning jars. Yeah, it's a canning jar. People used to do a lot of canning. They still do something, but one of the major manufacturers, I think the guy that originally invented the canning jar name was Mason. So it says Mason right on it, you know. So I take this mason jar and put it next to it, and then I stick this letter opener in it. And I took a picture of it, put it on my Facebook page, and it blew up. You know, one flat earther found it, and he said, "Hey, he's admitting that he is a Mason. We have proof that he's a Freemason." I'm thinking, really? A Freemason. I have a Freemason. My grandfathers were, my father wasn't. So I've got at least a generation removed between the two of us. All right, I'm a Freemason. Tell people that I'm a Freemason by, little hints and signals. I've also attended 3 Flat Earth International conferences, all 3.
In 1 Chronicles 12:32, we read about the sons of Issachar who had understanding of the times. And I want to ask us, do we have understanding of the times? Do we know what is happening in our Western world? We see the collapse of the Christian fabric, the collapse of the Christian worldview. Why is that? Because a foundation has been removed and the structure is collapsing. What foundation? The foundation of the authority of the Word of God. It's about time God's people went out there unashamedly, uncompromisingly, stood on the Word of God and said, this is what it's all about. Proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. Show that we can defend our faith. If we start standing on the Word of God, that's what's going to change this nation.
Is the earth flat?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special...
So, today we are answering the age-old question whether the Earth is actually flat or if it's not. During this time in isolation, I have been thinking to myself, why do so many people believe that the Earth is flat? So I have decided to investigate this myself by making this my mission to travel all the way to Land's End in Cornwall to find out the Earth's true form. So after hours and hours of travelling, we finally made it to the destination. As you can see, I'm actually talking on screen, but basically it was too windy to hear anything, so I'll be narrating the rest of the video for you lot. I now present to you Exhibit A. In the distance you can see the horizon of the Earth, and to be fair, it does look fairly flat. I do not think this is enough evidence, however, to support this claim, so we will now move on to Exhibit B.
your elbows can touch together, you're flat.
And there was much rejoicing.
My deductive deconstruction of the wicked, all inclusive, but explosives what you get when I'm tripping and I'm still ticking. Masons can't trip with Mr. Twisted, picture me wigging. The cemetery's filling up swiftly, sheeple screaming. Wild like a child tissy, turn the trick and now the whole herd on my list is shitty, powerful, the merciful. I fight for all my rights, I'm never tired, just a shining star, rising really far, so now I'm wide, Masons. I've got half of mine to slap yours. Bring your hostility when you come for me, cause I win wars. No hesitation when I then blast, cause truth are bustin', plus cops had it coming, so get off my ass, yo. So now I shook the law off me, my bag's packed and I'm breezing through the cold to forget the phonies. Now we slowly migrate to where we all came from, cause we're flying, that's a fact. Hyper boy, here we come.
Okay, my bags are packed. You know we waited so long, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we come. It's time to adapt. You know we've risen so strong, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we go.
When I woke up from this dream, I prayed and thanked the Lord for showing me the only truthful way. I wanna be a righteous man, but still when the devil comes for me, all I can see is getting him killed for real. That's how I feel. Reflect my rhymes rolling on these reels, make the Masons all deal with my steel. They grave sealed. We were fooled, but they made themselves. Give them the noose and make them hang themselves. Hey, fallen legends headed home, James 5-7. Dusting devils to the dome, watch them die from heaven. God's calling shots, nobody's real, they NPCs. Walking dead in the scripted realities, burning globes get disposed of. We all truthers to the death, so my flat brothers show me love. God forgave us from the exile, we got the job done, so we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we come.
Okay, my bags are packed. You know we waited so long, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we come. It's time to adapt. You know we've risen so strong, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we go.
I was dazed by drugs, ruled by thrillers. Learned my psychiatric skills from popping painkillers. Chosen mine cause God knows me. I guess we all gotta grow just to find peace. I grow to these beats, blast till I touch the sky. Still do or die, all the truth is on the rise. Watching lives die, Saints paralyzing like a poet prophet. Saints organizing on the rise so they can't stop it. I keep on truthing, now the haters wanna see me fall. I smoke the snitching out his deep ditches, gonna grave them all. Problem solved, ditch a ball, time to grow up. I'm laying lines in my prime, time to blow up. Heads up, spoken spell, broke the globe curse. I'm ripping rhymes out daily with the next verse. Now we're done with the scum in the slum, time for fun, everyone. Hyperborea, here we come.
Okay, my bags are packed. You know we waited so long, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we come. It's time to adapt. You know we've risen so strong, we'll fly and that's a fact. Hyperborea, here we come.
How do we know the Earth is not flat?
We don't. It's flat.
So you're going to be remembered in history for your Apollo 11 landing, the first lunar landing. Is there anything else that you want to be remembered for, that you want a legacy for, that we're not going to teach children in school, or anything you want to have students know about you?
Well, I have a license plate, California, Florida, Mars guy, and some people may not like it, but I'd like to be Mars guy #1. That's going to be a big, big smash.
How big? Big.
C'est de Macron dans le McDo. See, always when there is an M, you know, it's Maltese, it's Masons, has a Templar V in it, it's red and white. See, everywhere. There's a G with the 3 red, which should be vertical, but well, never mind. Concept of 3. Must be the concept of 4 somewhere. It's everywhere. Hey, they are masters. Everything belongs to them. This is probably Spanish. Oh, it's French. Pyramids are so important to them. I even put them here. It's so important, right? And the A is like a pyramid. The V, Templar V, is like a downward pyramid. It even surpasses the rest of the words, you know. So important for them. So the pyramid of death is the old world's order in this case. And everywhere. It's blatant. Hello. You know, there it says V-Sped. Spedition. V of the Templars from Czechoslovakia. From Czechy. Look, the concept of 3 green squares, and the concept of 4 white squares. And it is a square, every time a square. Next to the Pyramid Company, our masters. I could look around, you know, I find a lot of things, well, I don't feel like it. Nice rainbow. They call South Africa the rainbow nation. You know, the Mandela did. There's only one problem, there's no color whites in a rainbow. That's what they said, you know. It's like from the 2 extremities, from ultraviolet to infrared. The light spectre. There's no white in a rainbow nation.
Hello, this is Dave. Today I want to talk about what I consider to be the biggest lie of all. It's a subject I've been looking at for the last 6 months, and I've been pretty hesitant to talk about it because, well, it's a really controversial subject. Now, I stumbled across this completely by accident. I was researching something on a totally unrelated topic and happened to see an intriguing sounding video. So I clicked on it, but the subject was so preposterous that I was just about to turn it off when it happened to say something that piqued my interest. So I watched the video completely to the end. And by the end of it, I had questions. I had some serious questions. So I'm going to ask you to be open-minded about this. This is very, very controversial and difficult to get your head round. So just bear with this and keep an open mind. So, in order to determine the truth, I'm going to be using a few principles here. The first of which is the scientific method, something that the scientific community doesn't seem to use these days. But the scientific method is where a theory or opinion is put forward that matches what we observe. But if something comes along that contradicts those observations, then the theory must be discarded. The second principle is Occam's razor. That's quite simply, the simplest explanation tends to be the truth. The third principle I'm going to be using is from Sherlock Holmes. When the impossible has been eliminated, whatever is left, however improbable, must be the truth. I'm also going to have to accept a couple of things. The first of which is what I call the ant's perspective. The other thing we have to accept is how easily our minds, once they've been programmed or given a world view, how easily those minds can be fooled.
Just taking a look at the Matrix and why people believe what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Take cover, keep hidden, and get ready to infiltrate a super secret organization.
The society includes at least 3 U.S. presidents, Supreme Court justices, and too many senators and CEOs to name.
Welcome to Watch Mojo's Top 5 Facts. In today's installment, we're counting down our picks for the top 5 most interesting facts about the Yale University secret society known as the Skull and Bones.
A number of reports say that there are niches with human skulls, and whose skulls they are. They're supposedly the skulls of famous people, and there's one skull that was labeled the skull of Geronimo.
It's an organization with a history spanning over 150 years, shrouded in mystery and retaining some pretty unique and fascinating secrets.
Even though their identities were known, what they did inside the tomb was still supposed to be top secret.
Number 5. Lots of powerful elite or bonesmen.
Chris, welcome to the Skull and Bones Society. This is where the most powerful men in the world are groomed for their futures.
Conspiracy theorists love discussing the Skull and Bones, especially how many important, influential, and powerful members have passed through its doors.
Well, he's an ambitious man. The idea of getting the Supreme Court is the only thing he really loves.
Members of this super secret organization are known as Bonesmen and have included Senator John Kerry, former President William Howard Taft, and 3 generations of the Bush family, including George W. Bush, George Bush Sr., and Prescott Bush. But more on him later. Other Bonesmen have gone on to head multi-million-dollar corporations or otherwise become power players on the world stage, leading to much speculation that the society is meant to breed future world leaders and other men of influence.
We share similar backgrounds, you and I hope similar values which could put this society's influence to better use.
And we say men of influence because the Skull and Bones actually didn't accept female membership until the 1990s, long after Yale University itself went co-ed in 1969. This desire to keep the society small, intimate, and male-dominated only adds to its legacy of mystery and secrecy. Or maybe it just makes them look like jerks. Jury's out on that one.
You know, someone I loved once told me that if it's secret and elite, it can't be good.
Number 4. They allegedly stole the skulls of historical figures. So remember how we mentioned that George W. Bush's grandfather, Prescott, was a bonesman? Well, in 1918, the patriarch was among 6 other bonesmen who served as guards in Fort Sill, where famed Apache leader Geronimo died and was buried. The legend is that Prescott & Co. stole Geronimo's skull from the site and brought it back to the Skull and Bones headquarters known as the Tomb, where it's said to reside to this day. So enduring is this tale that in 2009, Geronimo's descendants sued the Skull and Bones for the return of his remains. The case was dismissed in 2010, but not because the bones aren't there necessarily, but because the judge decided that the law they cited only applied to grave robberies that occurred after the law was passed in 1990. The Apache warrior skull isn't the only macabre object reportedly housed within the tomb either, as author Alexandra Robbins claims that there were also skulls belonging to Mexican revolutionary Pancho Villa and former President Martin Van Buren within the tomb, as well as coffins, gravestones, and even a set of silverware which reportedly belonged to Adolf Hitler.
There are photos of skulls inside the Skull and Bones tomb.
Number 3. Initiation involves some bizarre rituals.
As is customary with all our new members, you now have to spend 7 minutes in the closet with our most senior member.
We've already mentioned that the Skull and Bones headquarters is known as the Tomb, but is what actually goes on down there in the depths all that dark and mysterious?
That sounds kinda cruel.
No, you'll love it. It's great.
Well, it's been said that the initiation rituals for potential bonesmen can include some very bizarre, occult-inspired trappings.
The initiates have to do things like drink fake blood out of a skull.
One former Yale student turned journalist for the New York Observer even managed to capture on videotape one of the Skull and Bones rituals for neophyte pledges to the society. These rituals include a mock human sacrifice, the kissing of a skull, and various embarrassingly juvenile taunts from elder bonesmen to these neophytes.
They're sort of trying to scare the initiates, make them, disorient them, frighten them.
According to Alexandra Robbins, another infamous hazing ritual involves having a neophyte lie naked in a coffin, masturbate, and reveal their most secretive sexual experiences and fantasies. Are we having fun yet?
Wolfie! Yeah, it's my safe word, baby. It's my safe word.
I don't give up.
Number 2. They have their very own island. Once a bonesman, always a bonesman. This is the idea behind the Skull and Bones membership, as the Society's alumni retain oversight of its activities, while also owning its real estate under the Russell Trust Association. One piece of this real estate is a private island belonging to the Skull and Bones known as Deer Island, located along the St. Lawrence River. The original purpose of Deer Island was as a retreat destination for Bonesmen, where members would enjoy fine dining, play tennis, and otherwise catch up with Bonesmen alumni who have lost touch over the years. The idea of vacationing on Deer Island is one which has somewhat lost its luster for younger Bonesmen, however, with many new students claiming that the island has largely fallen into disrepair.
Talk about your fixer-upper.
In 2009, Gawker posted photos from an alleged Bonesman's Facebook page depicting what they say is a weekend at Deer Island. It really just looks like a diverse group of friends having a drunken good time in a shabby cabin somewhere. Kind of disappointing. Number 1. The Skull and Bones isn't the only secret society at Yale. Yep, just imagine. Not one, but several freaky clubs. Some even richer than the Skull and Bones, all perpetuating dangerous and bizarre hazing rituals, and all going on to secretly run the world. Or something. They go by such similarly cryptic names as Scroll and Key, Book and Snake, and Wolf's Head. According to Robbins, they all keep a checks and balances approach to how they recruit reliable new members, protect their own unique hazing traditions, and keep up to speed on what every other secret society is up to as well. Others claim that the point of all these secret societies, including Skull and Bones, is a much more benign one. They are merely an opportunity for students to create relationships with a diverse set of new people and hopefully gain some lifelong friends.
In any fellowship, you need someone you can trust. Someone to be there, always and for anything. A soulmate.
Or at least a few college drinking buddies. So, are you ready to pledge allegiance to the Skull and Bones? And would you go through degrading hazing rituals to gain some powerful friends?
Is it the old Groucho Marx joke that I just don't want to belong to any club that would have someone like me for a member?
For more accomplished Bonesman top 10s and skull-kissing top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
So what's the payoff for all the secrecy, all the elaborate rituals? Well, here's the thing. Skull and Bones has a record.
That for people who don't really know what is really going on, I see the pain. You know, I see it in their eyes. Okay, sorry, cartoon. You know, well, my daughter used to love Peppa Pig, and I've become very fond of it. I like Peppa Pig. You know, it's cute, kind of real. You know, I mean, they mean nothing. This is a perfect example for you to see that all politicians, all actors and actresses, all football players, all baseball players, all of them are nothing but there to distract you. Don't you understand that? You live on a flat earth.
衷肠感谢所有科技工作者，祝福祖国的航天事业越来越强。众三进场。
That stuff is flat. And then I showed examples of wide-angle lenses curving horizontal. I tweeted that.
You did.
But I don't want to be a spoiled, curmudgeon or anything. I just wanted you to put. I don't. See, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. I just wanted you to put. I don't.
Okay, I wanted to make a simple video showing a way that you can verify that the Earth is indeed right here. So it should be easy to find from Sydney, Australia, and that is the basics.
And there was much rejoicing.
With parole as inducement, Virgil submits to the vaccine test. It is a success, except for one temporary side effect. For several hours, he is turned into a rabbi.
And so...
I'm inquiring about moonstones because I've heard something about moonstones.
No, we don't have moonstones, sir.
So no astronauts brought any stones back to Earth from the moon?
No, we've never had any.
And they just start making stuff up. Yeah. Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.